realfaith.org.au. realfaith.org.au.
I thought, why can't I do something and provide victims who go through similar process as I did, in the sense of losing clothes and stuff, and it all going into evidence, and to provide them with clothes and toiletries and just basic human dignity, you know.
Welcome to Real Faith. Conversations about the impact faith has on our lives and the challenges we go through, helping us today and giving us hope for tomorrow. That's real people, real life, and real faith with Eric Scatterbo.
Well, today we have the conclusion of our four-part conversation with Gloria Anderson, who was abducted from her home in 2011 by a boarder who she let stay at a granny flat on the back of her property. As we heard last time, she endured a 3-day ordeal that included being taken to another state while being held captive. Also, she was mocked for her faith and endured extreme physical torment. After praying constantly, she eventually found an opportunity to escape, and Gloria is now seeking to help others who have gone through similar traumatic experiences. Today, Gloria will share the rest of her story and what happened after her escape. And parents, once again, we want to remind you that today's program is not recommended for children. Also, the topics of violence and assault will be mentioned in today's program, and it has the potential to trigger painful memories in those who have gone through similar experiences. So, some adults may prefer to avoid today's program as well. Once again, Gloria Anderson, along with her friend Priscilla Chandra, are chatting with me in our Melbourne studios. Wow, so the actual abduction had come to an end, but how do you get over something like that?
Guess you don't. I guess it's a healing journey that carries on all your life. You still heal in some process, one way or the other. After that, straight after the police, they took me, and they got the ambulance and took me to the hospital where they came and took photographs, and evidence was taken. Obviously explained what was happening. That's when I actually found out that my ex had, I was trying to remember numbers, because nowadays with phones, you don't store numbers in your head anymore.
Right, you just press a button. Yeah.
Press a button. So I was trying to remember one number. I couldn't get it. But around that same time, my ex-husband had filed a missing persons report.
Oh, okay. So he was looking for you.
Yeah, because I was meant to have kids by Monday.
Right.
Obviously, they had to go to school, and so I was not there. And obviously, then I managed to have a chat and explain what was happening. I then was taken, because Young was a very small town in New South Wales. So the police had to. They were trying to debate whether they would take me to Wagga or to Canberra for my forensics examination, and they took me to forensics. For my medical examination to Canberra Hospital.
And then began a 7-year process of bringing justice.
Yeah. While we were on our way back from Canberra, after all the medical was done, and that's when I found out that they had actually found Darren, and he had actually crashed my car somewhere in Lithgow or one of the towns.
So he was captured.
Captured about, it was about 2 hours drive from Young, New South Wales.
And he was put on trial.
He was put on trial in New South Wales because that's where they first caught them. But because I think so, we discussed this early on in the trial, going through the 2-state process.
So you had to go through 2 trials.
I had to go through 2 trials in New South Wales. One was a mistrial because of his lawyer. And she mentioned something, so they had to get a new jury. So that process took about 4.5 weeks in New South Wales, where I ended up getting vertigo because I was all alone. But I guess very little support. I did manage to make a friend with Salvation Army chaplain. She was a beautiful lady. She was a support person. There were a lot of good moments. Even I remember the first day of the trial, and I'm just processing what's happening. God just I guess I can say God reminded me of, the sinner on the cross. And I'm like...
In what way?
I think at that time I was trying to figure out what, but then it was Jesus extending grace even at the last moment and what that meant.
So you're thinking about extending grace at the time of the trial.
Yes, and it was very difficult. It was one of those things. It's like, what does that mean? That means, do you still go for a trial? What did forgiveness look like that for me? Forgiveness means you forgive everything and you don't go to the trial, or you forgive and you still go through the court process because that's the law of the land. And I guess there was all this sort of conflicting, thoughts, or should I say, a process I went through. Yeah.
Now, what eventually happened to Darren?
In 2016, he did get extradited. He got sentenced in New South Wales. He was found guilty. The jury came out. The verdict came out, should I say, in like hour and a half. So guilty. And then in 2016, he was 16, he was extradited to Melbourne, and he was meant to go through another trial here. We were all ready. The date was set. And on the day we were going to go for the trial, he called in sick. Even while he was in the prison, he created a whole lot of drama. He bashed up a prison guard. He was sentenced again while he was in the prison. So there were a series of issues that was happening even while he was in remand. And then on the second day, he decided to plead guilty. But again, still had to go give my impact statement, and he was sentenced. Apparently, he was given the highest, top 10 highest sentences in Victoria for assault. And it was during that time, it was one of the hardest thing, because at one point, the 7.5 years of trials, it was sort of coming to an end. There was that glimpse. It is finishing. But around the same time, my mother fell really ill, and she
back
was
in India.
Back in India, and she actually she got bedridden around in 2016. So I had visited her, and by 2018. I had to literally just a month and a half or so before his sentencing was supposed to take place, my mom was admitted in the ICU. And my family's like, are you coming home? You need to come home, Mom. Your mom's...
Yeah, normally you would just immediately
pack up and leave.
Yeah.
Pack up and leave.
But you're in the middle of this court case.
Yes, and on the day I got the call from my sister saying, you need to come, I don't think Mom will make it. Thankfully, at that same day, I had a session with my psychologist, and the discussion with my psychologist on the day was, which is more important, go visit my mom or stay back for the sentencing after this 7.5 years of trial. I came to a conclusion, I will go. If Mom makes it, great. If she doesn't make it, I guess I'm going for a funeral. But it was important for me to be there for the sentencing.
Just to kind of close that chapter.
And for my mom passing, I was thinking physically there would be a grave I could still go and visit. With Darren, if he's gone sentencing, there's nothing I can go revisit a court case. That is not possible. But I had to put an end to that as well. So that was a huge thing. But on that same day, literally, so on the day I've spoken to my sister, had a session with a psychologist, booked my tickets, and that night my mom passed away. So I landed up going for a funeral. And I returned just a couple of days before the sentencing, jet lag. I still remember sitting in the courtroom, putting an end to that. That was fairly intense.
And then eventually, what happened to Darren?
After I found out in December 2022, I'd actually asked the detectives for some of the evidences back. There was actually one particular scarf that I was tied up with during the period of... The scarf was made... was hand-woven by women who were actually trafficked. And that very scarf was used to tie me up. So I was like, I want that back, because that showed it was like important to me. And it was one of those things. It was like, I'm not going to let their story die, along with mine. So I wanted that back. And along with few other things, which I managed to get back, and actually had a bit of a sort of a, I guess,
kind of a ceremony, or
letting go ceremony. Burning all those things, some of the things from the evidence, and I guess it was timely, because that's when I found out that Darren had passed away.
Our guest today is once again Gloria Anderson, along with her friend Priscilla Chandra, who are joining me in our Melbourne studios. Gloria is sharing about the events in her life after she was abducted in 2011. We'll hear more of her story, including the ministry she was inspired to start. That's all coming up when we return right here on Real Faith.
The Word for Today is Australia's most widely read daily devotional, designed to give you practical teaching to keep you focused on your relationship with Jesus. Read it online or subscribe to the free printed edition at thewordfortoday.com.au.
You're listening to Real Faith, conversations with real people about how God works in their lives. If you want to know more about integrating faith into your life, our website is realfaith.org.au. Just go to the website and you'll find helpful articles about the impact faith can have on your life. Once again, that's realfaith.org.au.
Welcome back. I'm Eric Scotabo, and today, once again, I'm chatting with Gloria Anderson, along with her friend Priscilla Chandra, who are joining me in our Melbourne studios. Gloria is sharing her life journey and the events in her life that occurred after she was abducted in 2011. And then she went through a lengthy 7.5-year court process that she would not wish on anyone. Before the break, we ended just as Gloria found out that her abductor, Darren, had died in prison in February of 2020. Now we'll find out what happened next in Gloria's life.
The detective mentioned the time he had passed. Around that time, I remember, because I was still continuing to praying for Darren. I was still praying for him. And I remember there was a period of time where I stopped praying for him. And I remember thinking, oh, have I gone cold-hearted? Have I, become hardened? My heart's been hardened. I'm not praying for him anymore. What is the reason? And it was around the same time he actually had passed. So it was one of those.
What happened to him? Do you know?
He actually had leukemia. So he contested his sentencing in December 2018, and then about July 2019, he got diagnosed with leukemia, and February 2020, he passed away. So at about the same time, I had stopped praying. Again, it was one of those things. I had one of those God moments even during that time. It was, even my prayers are led by the Spirit, that thing when you say, the Spirit intercedes on behalf of you. I think it just became really real and what that meant.
Now, out of the ashes of this horrendous ordeal that you've gone through, some good things have come.
Definitely.
And sitting quietly, being supportive, is your good friend, Priscilla Chandra, who's been here all this time.
Yes.
You're learning some new things. Is that right?
I am learning a few new things along the way, even though I've journeyed with Gloria for years. I've questioned a few things today and asked her to explain a bit more. And that's really helped clarify some things even for me after journeying with her for all this time. But I've been supportive, being as supportive as I can with over this years, worked with her, journeyed with her. And she's then wrote me into all sorts of things like this interview today.
Yeah, you didn't know you're going to be behind the microphone.
No, I had no idea. And I was like, no, this is not for me, but here we are. And she's roped me into her board of thinking of you.
Yes, let's talk about that, talking about positive things.
Yeah.
You started a ministry called
Yes.
Thinking of You. Why did you start this ministry, which Priscilla is on the board of?
That's right.
Yes. While I was waiting for all, I guess, there was a lot of period of waiting. So while I was waiting...
You're talking about right after the police came,
yes.
while they're gathering evidence and all that?
Yes. While I was in Canberra during that time, obviously it was middle of winter, middle of July. Obviously, police did give me some. The hospital gave me some clothes, and they were secondhand clothes. But you know, you go to an op shop, buy secondhand clothes, and there is like I guess you can tear them into sections. This was like probably fifth or sixth hand
not
clothes.
very comfortable clothes. So basically, if I understand you correctly, all your clothes were taken for forensic evidence.
Yes.
So they had to give you something, and they gave you some clothes that were pretty raggy. Is that basically what you're trying to say?
Yes, there's ratty and there's ratty. There is a second grade ratty.
Yeah.
I guess they did the best.
So that's one of the things that your ministry is to help.
Yes.
Provide some good clothes for victims.
Yes, and then the other one, big one that hit me was while I was in Canberra, because obviously they did provide me with clothes, but I still didn't have shoes. For the 3 days, I didn't have any shoes.
So you're walking around without shoes?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
So I walked on snow, walked on frost.
Without any shoes?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
And then in Canberra, after forensics, I guess I was really cold by this time. I requested if I could have anything, pair of slippers or, there's hotels, very skimpy, something to keep my feet warm because I've been walking on ice. So the doctor she rushed around. She found a pair of socks and
I can't believe they don't have this kind of stuff.
No, they don't.
Wow.
This is in the capital, by the way, country's capital. This is in Canberra Hospital. And then she found 2 Ziploc bags and a rubber band to hold the rubber band up, and they were my shoes for a day or so.
So your shoes were a plastic bag held up by a rubber band?
Pretty much.
So this is one of the reasons why you wanted to start a ministry.
Yeah. It came out of it started in this idea literally almost a year ago. So this idea came in. After actually I prayed. I was praying. I fasted and prayed. I felt I should fast and pray, so I fasted and prayed for 3 days. And literally 5 days later, this thought pops into my head, and just reminded of the process I had to go through. And then I thought, why can't I do something and provide victims, not just of sexual assault, but domestic violence victims and other kinds of assault who go through similar process as I did, in the sense of losing clothes and stuff, and it all going into evidence. And a lot of people are, if they're single, they don't have relatives or anybody close by.
You're in another state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To provide them with clothes and toiletries and just basic human dignity,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how it all started.
Yeah.
And Priscilla,
That's right.
you've been trying to provide support for your friend who's
That's
gone
right.
through this ordeal, which
Yes.
originally you didn't have any idea about all this.
No.
You just,
no.
little by
Yeah.
little, you learned about it.
Yeah. So she fed me by drips of information, which I'm grateful for in some ways, because it's such a shocking...
It's a lot to take on.
Yeah, it's a lot to
all at
take
once.
on.
And we haven't even gotten into
Yeah.
a lot of the story.
Yeah. And so I'm grateful that she drip fed me rather than dumped it all on me. So yeah, we've been journeying together, and I'm sort of, they are like a big sister, probably, I'd say.
Oh, good on you.
I'm walking along her sounding board and things like that. And with things like thinking of you, like if any support that I can give her, and she's asked me to be on the board. And
Well, I didn't give you a choice today.
She didn't.
Just like this interview today.
Yeah, just like this interview today. And I believe a lot of things coming in the future. It might be just like that.
Just keep being a friend of
Yes.
Gloria. You don't know what you'll end up doing.
Yeah, what I'll end up doing. And she's in a little bit of trouble with me after this.
Why would that be? I don't understand. Of course, I conspired with Gloria.
Yeah, I know you did.
So I can't take all the blame for it.
That's right.
So yeah, so I walked blindly into this situation. So here I am.
Thank you so much
thank
for rising to the occasion.
Gloria has processed a lot over the years, and there are times she has to laugh, to
If you don't
not
laugh,
go
you'll start
crazy.
crying, yeah.
I often say that.
Yeah.
It's like if I don't laugh, if I cry, people, I guess it's also my coping mechanism in some ways, because it's, maybe it's a nervous laughter as well, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
But I truly, truly appreciate Priscilla's help, and being on the board. She's our treasurer, actually. That's her official position. And another good story out of this is one of our other board members is amazing story. When the first occasion when I was first being put in the boot of the car, and that's when Darren threw out the phone. This was at a factory. Obviously, it was an industrial area, so this was like a warehouse. So this was on Sunday. So on Monday, the person who owned the warehouse came in, and he dried the phone up, cleaned it up, and
Oh, it was just sitting somewhere?
yeah, it was sitting in the car park.
Okay.
Yeah, and in those days, the smartphones didn't have a lock screen, so you could just swipe it open and just turn it on. So he managed to find my email. So he actually just confirmed whose email it was off my phone or the last text that was sent. And then he emailed me. He goes, "Hi, this is Bruce. I believe I found your phone." And by this time, I was already I was with the police giving my statement and stuff. So the police came and chased it up. But I always wanted to contact him and thank him for returning the phone. It also not only that, just to not only returning the phone, but also for me, I guess it in some ways validates. You go through a process, you sometimes think, how much of it is made up, and because as a victim, you blame yourself of what could have,
it corroborates your story.
Yeah. And I actually called him up. Yeah, there's this number, and I was like, "Do you remember returning a phone about 8 years ago?" And we caught up for a coffee event along with a friend of mine, and we landed up. I eventually met all his family, his wife, his kids, his grandkids.
That's an interesting way for a friendship to start.
Yes. That's an interesting way when we try to explain how we met.
And to top it all off, he's a member of our board.
Is that right?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic.
He's our vice president. So yes.
Oh wow.
So like I said, that's a good story in the midst of it's the whole redemption, the full circle of God redeeming things. I find that amazing.
Priscilla, are you proud of your friend?
I definitely am. Very proud.
I mean,
she's one tough girl.
Even though I drag you into things you didn't sign up for.
Not too many people would have survived the way she has and been like the person she is today. Yeah. So, very proud.
We're proud of you, Gloria.
Thank you.
I gotta stop. I'm the one that tears up. She goes through the ordeal. I'm the one that tears up.
She laughs at you.
Yeah.
Gloria, Priscilla, thank you so much for being with us today. And Gloria, thank you so much for sharing your story and everything you've gone through and how you're still giving glory to the Lord. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Eric.
Well, that was part 4 and the conclusion of my 4-part conversation with Gloria Anderson along with her friend Priscilla Chandra. As we heard, Priscilla is now on the board of Gloria's new ministry, which is called Thinking of You, From One Survivor to Another. They distribute packages of clothing and toiletries to hospitals for sexual assault and domestic violence victims. You can learn more about their ministry at their website. It's thinkingofyou.org.au. Once again, that's thinkingofyou.org.au. Finally, some background information about Gloria's abductor, Darren, who died of leukemia in prison in 2020. An article in the Age newspaper says, the jury just took 90 minutes to find Darren guilty of 4 counts of aggravated sexual assault without consent, 1 of indecent assault, and 1 of detaining Anderson for advantage. He was sentenced to 11 years, with parole set at 7 years. Then, in a separate case, he eventually pleaded guilty to the Victoria charges. In all, the court process in both New South Wales and Victoria took 7.5 years. This is something that Gloria is now campaigning to change so that no one will have to go through what she went through. We hope that Gloria is successful in her efforts and that her new ministry will go a long way towards helping other survivors of crimes and will be a blessing to many. Well, thank you so much for joining us for the conclusion of Gloria Anderson's remarkable story. We certainly are proud of her and all the service she has done and continues to do to help others despite everything she's gone through. We pray that the Lord blesses her abundantly. Well, until next time, I'm Eric Scadabo. So long, and God bless.
You've been listening to Real Faith, and if you have any questions or comments, you can send us a message through our website, realfaith.org.au. That's realfaith.org.au. Thanks for listening, and we invite you to join us again next time for more conversations about God working in the lives of people who put their faith and trust in Him. That's real people, real life, and real faith.
Real Faith is a production of Vision Christian Media.
This program is a production of Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, see vision.org.au. This program is a production of Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, see vision.org.au.